This episode of Shadiversity is brought to you by the Dragon's Shirt, which poses the most important reply to any statement or observation. What about dragons? This is my house. Ah, but what about dragons? Oh, so you want me to marry you? But what about dragons? Will you please pass the salt? But what about dragons? Dragons have feelings too, people. We cannot forget the dragons. Available on Teespring, link in the description.
Shadiversity.
Greetings, I'm Shad, and I want to speak about some of the unsung heroes in some of the most classic Disney tales and stuff like that. Because the princesses of these Disney tales, they have their own kind of club and everything, Disney Princess Club and stuff like that. But the real heroes of those stories, the guys that are constantly saving their lives, are completely overlooked. I'm talking about the princes, okay? But these guys, some of them, are really top-notch, capable warriors in and of their own right. And so let's take a look at these unsung heroes in this video and determine out of all the Disney princes, not princesses, the princes are the best. Which one is the best warrior, okay? The answer's a bit obvious in my opinion, but we're still gonna go through them, analyze what they did, what their capabilities and skills were and stuff like that, to give them the credit they deserve. And so starting with one of the first early ones, we have Snow White. Well, that one's a bit weird because the prince doesn't necessarily save Snow White except for... No, he doesn't do much. I mean, the witch dies just by falling off a cliff. And all the prince does is really kiss her and she wakes up, you know? Classic true love's kiss. In fact, the only two movies that have the classic true love kiss is Snow White and Sleeping Beauty. That's not very much for it to become such an iconic staple in fairy tale fantasy. But for those naysayers who think that these princes and princesses can't fall in love in a short period of time, I dated my wife for a week and a half before I proposed to her, so yeah. And we've been married for many years, very happily, 4 children. Look, granted, we knew each other for about 2 months before then. Interestingly, for fairy tale standard, that's actually a longer period. They generally only know each other for a couple of days before they get hitched. But for worldly standards, only knowing someone for 2 months and then dating for a week and a half and then proposing and getting married a month after that, yeah, I can see that people think that's pretty fast, but hey, I'm proof that absolutely genuine, authentic, and also reasoned out, logical relationship, love and everything can absolutely happen and be the foundation of a wonderful, long-lasting relationship. Me and my wife, how long have we been married now? It's coming up to like 10 years. Anyway, all right, that Prince Charming, okay, granted. We can move on. And you know what's unfortunate? I can barely remember any of these princes' names. That's how overlooked they are. We all remember their princesses' names, because the next one we'll look at is, of course, one from The Little Mermaid, all right? I remember Ariel, she's the main character, but the one saving her is the prince. And oh my goodness, look at the balls on this guy. He goes up against a giant sea monster, gets in a flippin', half-sunken ship, and drives the tip right into her gut. That guy has balls. All right, he's certainly better than Snow White Prince, and I'm sure you guys are going to say, Shad, his name is this, his name is that, and stuff like that. You can't blame me for not remembering his name, okay? You can't blame me for not doing proper research before I do this video. It's a bit spur of the moment. I think it's fun to do anyway, so don't blame me, okay? Get off my back. Okay, now the prince from Cinderella. He isn't nearly as proactive as The Little Mermaid, is he? He does technically save Cinderella. He's the one who takes her out of poverty and marries her and stuff like that. There's no reason why he needed to do that. And he does that by matching, the slipper to her foot. Still, he's more proactive than just kissing someone. He actually goes out and has the slipper. He isn't really a great warrior, so he's not a warrior at all. So he's like thrown off this list. Same with the prince from Snow White. They're not really, so no. Gone. He's out. Of course, there is a prince that is clearly the best warrior, but I'm saving him to last, okay? I said the answer's kind of obvious, but we're going to go through to the other ones first, all right? We'll get there. Aladdin. Now, Aladdin technically isn't a prince, but he does become a prince eventually when he marries Jasmine. And he's kind of the only one in which the movie is actually about him, where he is the main character rather than the princess. Ah, so good. Our blokes. Finally, we're getting some recognition in these Disney movies and stuff. He is interesting because he has some skills, old Aladdin, all right? He is very dexterous, very light on his feet. He's a very good acrobat and climber and stuff like that. Is he actually trained in combative arts? I don't think so, all right? I think he would be able to wing it pretty decently, and his natural talents and abilities would be pretty good, but if he came up against someone who was actually trained as a warrior, he would get beaten. And so with the previous prince that we looked at, the one from The Little Mermaid, he is a legitimate prince. And so if you're a legitimate prince, you're going to be trained in the sword. That was classic training of that time period. So that's what we would expect with him. And so I actually think he would probably beat Aladdin in a fight. And before I get too much into it, I know I'm going to be missing some of the princes along the way. And that's a tragedy because they're so under-acknowledged for what they have done. But there are some obscure properties in Disney, and there's a lot of movies, and I don't want this video to be too long, so we'll do what we can, okay? Is it John Smith from Pocahontas? He's not included in this discussion. He's actually a trained soldier. He would be pretty high on the list, but it's from a different time period, okay? It's hard to include him. So, no, sorry, he's thrown out of this consideration. Sorry. And he's not a prince either. I mean, Pocahontas, they don't even get married. Is it Hans from Frozen? Hans, okay. Well, he is a prince, but he's the villain. Spoiler, if you didn't know, of course. But interestingly, like if we were to gauge him on his how effective of a warrior he is, he would be pretty high because he has something that none of the other princes have. Ruthlessness, okay? He's more than happy and ready to murder and do any of the down dirty deeds to win and get what he wants. And so because of that, he's far more deadly than Aladdin or the other prince that were he's actually top of the list at the moment. And Sven? Oh, hang on, that's not the guy's name. That's the moose's reindeer name thing. Kristoff! There we go. I did remember his name finally. Well, clearly Kristoff is not a trained warrior in any sense of the term. It's not even a prince. So, sorry, mate, you're one of the lowers. But I reckon he would be a bit more rugged, a bit stronger. But still, that doesn't mean the princes can't have gone through their training or even had military experience. So, sorry, mate, you're kind of off the list. You know, I'm going to include an obscure kind of prince in the Disney properties. And, honestly, this movie is a bit unsung in the Disney ones because I loved it. I thought it was great. It's Enchanted. And the prince, what is his name? Edward? I think his name is Edward. He has some sword action in this movie, okay? He stabs a bus. And he even takes on an ogre at the beginning of the movie in his animated form. So, you know, he's actually pretty up there, this guy. I think he's got far more balls than the Snow White and Cinderella one, absolutely. So he's certainly above them. Little Mermaid guy, ooh, it's a bit tough. Little Mermaid Prince, he takes on a sea monster, but this other guy, he takes on an ogre. That would kind of make them seem on an even more level, but he has some sword skill. This guy is supposed to have sword skill. And he carries it with him, and he seems to have far more, I guess, of a fighting background. Yet would he be tougher than Hans? Because Hans is dirty. He's a dirty player, all that old Hans. You know, I think he would beat Hans. This guy takes on ogres and stuff like that. This is very arbitrary. You can make up your own list. Share them in the description below. And maybe I was giving Hans too much credit because he's just a dirty player. And in retrospect, it's probably not fair to apply his willingness to kill people and backstab and stuff like that in a consideration of who's the best warrior. And for that sense, he should probably, the Aladdin one, because he has training, so Aladdin maybe. But if we don't consider the ruthless, dirty type of fighting and stuff like that, and just who is the better warrior, well, clearly Edward, he is above Hans, and he's top of the list at the moment, and it's kind of obscure. Not many people know about this guy. Hey, Han, could you come to the door for a sec? I'm making a video of who is the toughest Disney prince, and I'm trying to remember them all. I don't want to miss any of the most iconic ones.
So they need to be already princes, or are they marrying a princess?
Mostly they need to be real princes, yeah.
Prince Philip?
You remember their names, I don't. So, hang on, which one is Philip?
Sleeping Beauty?
Oh, we're coming to Philip. Don't let, Philip's on the list, yeah.
Adam?
Who's Adam? Which one's Adam?
Beast.
Oh, Beast! Do you see why I need my wife's help in this? I'm recording this, by the way.
Oh, brilliant.
Little Mermaid Prince, Eric. So I think I got his name wrong. My wife corrected me. Where was I? Okay, so the next one that I almost overlooked. Shame on me. Beast from Beauty and the Beast. He is absolutely a prince. The tricky thing about Beast is how do we consider him as the Beast? And his name was Adam. Do we consider Adam in his beast form or his cured form? That's tough, because in his beast form, he's tough. He took on a whole heap of wolves and everything like that. He's got tingly superhuman strength as a result of this and stuff like that, so he would be very formidable. Yet in his cured form, he doesn't really have too many great feats to his name. We could just expect that he has a standard level of military training, as many princes of medieval/Renaissance period would have. So we might have to make him a wild card. It's hard to really assess him. As the beast, he would be pretty high on the list, actually. I think he might be top of the list. But then again, I mean, there are some of those other princes that actually took on monsters and beat them, okay? We got Eric from Little Mermaid, who took on a sea monster, but, like, no, I think the beast would beat him still, and he'd probably beat Aladdin, but Edward from Enchanted, he took on ogres, okay? Ogres are bigger and tougher than beasts and stuff like that, so I think Edward probably would beat out Beast, but Beast, even in the Beast form, would, yeah, definitely beat Hans and, you know, those guys, and Aladdin. The General Captain guy from Mulan, he's not really a prince, okay? And Mulan isn't even a princess, but he would have done well in this list because he's a full-on trained soldier, and that guy got skills as well, but no, he's not on the list. Not a consideration, which is also unfortunate for the guy in Hunchback of Notre Dame. And even Quasimodo himself, Quasimodo's pretty tough, but they're not princes. And Esmeralda isn't a princess, so can't really consider her either. Esmeralda, she's not included on the Disney princesses list, is she? Those guys would have done well, and Quasimodo, absolute champ. In fact, Hunchback of Notre Dame, that's a good movie. Just legitimately in and of itself is a good movie. And the captain of the guard, Phoebus. Is it Phoebus? It means sun god. What a champion, all right? Good character, lots of personality, tough, trained, one of the unsung awesome characters of the Disney franchises. The Princess and the Frog, and honestly, I don't remember that guy's name, and I don't even remember the princess's name because that was an underwhelming film. And the prince in that, he's a useless freeloader. It's outside the medieval period on top of this, so this guy, he's on the bottom of the list. You're on the bottom of the list. And it's just an immature idiot in the movie. Like, gosh, what do you see in him? I actually forgot about this next Disney prince, but I can add him in here now, and that is Flynn Rider, or Eugene, from Tangled, because he certainly becomes a prince once he marries Rapunzel. Now, old Flynn is a rogue, he has some decent skills, you know, he showed himself to be adequately competent with a frying pan, but then he gets beaten by a horse. So that certainly doesn't go well in his favour. But he doesn't take on any monsters, and so this really puts him in the realm of a competent warrior, but nothing truly exceptional. So he'll definitely be under Edward and Eric and the Beast, but he seems more capable and competent than the Prince Charmings from Cinderella and Snow White. So Flynn Rider seems to be on the same level as Aladdin, and who would win between Flynn and Aladdin? I would have to give it to Aladdin because he does have some magical advantages up his sleeve, and even if he can't call on the genie to help him out, he does have the magical carpet and his monkey lackey. But finally we come to, in my opinion, the coolest, the toughest, the best Disney prince out of all the Disney fantasy fairy tale-y movies. And that is, of course, Prince Philip from Sleeping Beauty. This guy does not get nearly as much credit as he deserves. He kills a dragon, for crying out loud. Now, yes, granted, he gets helped by magic and the fairies and stuff like that. That just means he's got fairy lackeys that are giving him magical support in his combat and fight and stuff. So he has not only skills, not only he's a friendly, funny, nice guy, old Philip. Good on him. Thumbs up for just characterization right there. But he's got military training and skill. He's got a hell of a lot of balls taking on a flippin' dragon monster witch, right? And also winning and killing them all and saving, you know, Princess Aurora. He is the hero of that movie, okay? Aurora, she does nothing apart from getting cursed, being pricked by a spindle wheel and sleeping, alright? The hero, that movie should be called Prince Philip, for crying out loud. What a champion. And so, magical support, clearly the greatest feat amongst all the Disney princes, taking out the dragon, killing Maleficent, military background and training and stuff like that. Prince Philip is by far the most boss Disney prince out there. Absolutely. So, mate, this video is for you. Give you the credit you deserve in your movie. Because it was your movie. Prince Philip, the movie. And mate, my heart breaks for how they treated your character in the remake on Maleficent. What a useless interpretation that was. No, you were the best, okay? And so there we go, guys and girls. This has been my personal analysis on who is the toughest warrior amongst the Disney princes. because they deserve more credit. They are generally the ones who are saving the lady fair, as honestly it is the case in most history, okay? When someone needs to get saved and there is fighting and danger involved, well, generally, in wars and other things like that, that responsibility falls on us blokes. It's a responsibility that, honestly, we're more than happy to take, because that is, in part, what being a man means. Doing those difficult things that we need to do, because sometimes we're the best ones equipped for the job. Like knowing how to use a sword and being willing to take on a flippin' dragon. Okay, granted, we don't generally do that in real world, but if dragons did exist, you know the people who would be having to fight them more often than not? It's us! So give us some credit sometimes. So thank you for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed. And of course, I hope to see you again. So until then,